go with episode 1 of the Mike Spot podcast. I'm Chris, producer and lead designer of 80s Mania Wrestling and Modern Mania Wrestling.
And I'm Josh, quality assurance and associate designer for 80s Mania Wrestling and Modern Mania Wrestling. If for some reason you're listening to this and you haven't played our games, you can go ahead and download those on the App Store and Google Play.
Right, so in terms of format here, we're basically going to wing it, especially on this first episode. If you're down for this as a regular thing, let us know. And you could do that by subscribing to the podcast, obviously, or if you're catching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our Checkmate Creative channel, turn on notifications, and definitely give the video a like. And if you want to be a part of future episodes, go ahead, leave a comment or a question below. Speaking of YouTube, we put together a really fun image for this podcast. So you probably saw that on social media. We blasted that out as a promo for this. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to check it out. And let us know if you can spot all those 80s Mania Easter eggs in there. We've stuffed as many as we could.
Oh, for sure. There's so many in there too, so just, I'm not even sure how many there are. It's kind of endless. So yeah, find them all and let us know what you see. So what are we doing here, Chris? Why the podcast?
Yeah, good question. So we've been around for a while, and ever since the early days, we've had interactions with our player community, but when we communicate with players, it's all very fragmented, right? So we'll speak to one player via DM here, or another player we'll speak to in an email reply from support. Maybe even the occasional in-game inbox message that blasts out to all our players. But, what's been missing for a while is any sort of regular developer vlog. There's also a lot of frequently asked questions that pop up, especially for our newer features or our more complex features. So we'd love to just regularly highlight and discuss those and just treat this pod as a resource for our players. Then there's the fact that we've always got something to promote, right? Whether it's new characters or new features or brand new projects, it's safe to say that this year, plenty of big and exciting things coming. So this is going to be a good platform to discuss that stuff.
For sure, yeah. We're not lacking on new stuff.
Never.
So yeah, I think that we'll be able to fill it out for sure. So what's to expect going forward? Is there like a cadence, what can the fans expect from us?
Right. So regularly what we do is we try to, about every month, sometimes it's a little bit longer in between, but about every month we have, whether it be new characters or new features, either of our games get touched every month. And the goal would be to have a monthly podcast to follow up after a release. So each episode, we try to hit a little bit about 80s Mania, hit a little bit about Modern Mania, tackle some user questions. We'd love to shout out some players, some community resources we've got out there. And generally, like I said before, just speak a little bit more directly to our awesome community of players.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about our most recent Modern Mania GM update. That we expanded custom factions, we reworked some original Modern Mania characters, Murphy and Manson, two of my favorites, for sure. So they got reworks, and I think that the community has been really excited about these two, right? They're classics. They got a great tag team. They got great look, and their C and D alts, I think, got a little bit of love on this one.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. They've been around since the beginning. And when we started doing reworks for GM, they were always sort of at the top of the to-do list for us. And that's based on, just how the community feels. We've just seen, I hope they rework Manson, I hope they rework Murphy, and it was time to do so. Mm-hmm. And the response has been great, and we're excited to touch those original characters again.
For sure, yeah. I think that really the big thing was making those alts feel like main eventers, and like now I think they definitely hit on that for sure. I already have them as champions in my feds. So.
Excellent.
So we're doing good on that one.
No, that's excellent, man. Yeah, right. So moving on, the other thing we did do here is we've got this custom faction expansion, right? So we added a 6th slot. So that allows the custom factions to, have the same capacity as the official factions, right? So that was important. We also saw requests for more, like another team, right? So we've got another whole custom faction with which you can unlock and just build your own custom teams. And because we touched that area of the game, we wanted to add some additional backgrounds, just more fun stuff to play with in terms of customizing.
With the factions, I think that like with wrestling the way it is in the modern day, I think that factions are huge, so really like giving the factions an overhaul here and kind of expanding them a little bit, I think is like a really good addition. Like the ability to have these custom factions is one of the things that I love most about the game. So
we just do want to mention that when you are messing around with your custom faction, you can edit their name, the font color. You can tap on the backgrounds. You've got a selection of backgrounds. Like we said, we've added a bunch more. Another thing that's worth mentioning too is when you build your team, when you build your custom factions, it's not only like a cosmetic thing. It's not only something to look at, but you're also going to get the tag team bonuses, right? So when you team up characters that you've put together on your custom faction, you're gonna reap some benefits there in terms of the bonuses they get when they're performing together.
Yeah, another thing too I love to do is like being able to rearrange like the order of who's in the faction. I think that's something that like maybe like other players might not know about, but all you got to do is just drag and move them around, and if someone maybe becomes the new leader of the faction, I like
100%. I like messing around with that just to change the display, just to change what they look like. It's always fun to kind of click and drag the names around.
Awesome. Let's take a short break, and then we'll be back with some discussion about 80s Mania.
Henry, will you please see what those boys are up to?
Introducing WWF Wrestling Buddies. Wrestling Buddies from Tonka. Funk 'em, bop 'em. Wrestling Buddies are looking for action.
Hey, fellas, what's going on?
Nothing, Dad.
Who do you think you are?
Dad, Hulk Hogan!
Wrestling Buddies want to be your buddy.
Henry, what's going on up there?
Nothing, dear.
WWF Wrestling Buddies, new from Tonka. Each sold separately.
All right, and now we're back. Let's talk a little bit about 80s Mania.
Well, we've got a lot of stuff going on here, right? So when we introduced second feds, we introduced a few months back the ability to unlock and control a whole second fed. In our latest update, we basically created a mirror version, okay, of all the existing pay-for views, so that your second fed has a unique feel to it, right? So it feels like its own fed with its own series of monthly week 4 shows. So that was one aspect of this update. The other one was we wanted to expand the continuum concept and the legends concept. So, well, Josh, why don't you go ahead and just talk a little bit about what the continuum match is and what the legends match is, and then I can elaborate on what we added.
For sure, like with both of those, they're a pretty high price item. Not all of our players might have them, but really what it can do is it kind of bypasses those years active, that all these wrestlers have, and it has it to where you can kind of bring them regardless of what year you're in into the show. And before we had the continuum match, we had the legends match, and we were able to put them one-on-one against people from really anywhere in the game. But now I think that we've expanded a little bit. It kind of goes off of real life, having these legends come back, cut a promo, do a skit, and you can really fill your show out with anybody now with these special cards. So yeah, like just really a way to say you buy someone from the shop and you can't use them yet. These cards help you kind of like bring in this almost like dream situation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we do. We will get contacted every now and again from a player that sort of says, well, gee, why would you sell a character that's not active yet, or that is, now retired when I'm in a further year than the active years of the wrestler? And the answer really is that, right? It is, you can use the continuum match or the legends match to sort of break those rules. Those active year restrictions are lifted. And again, what we had in place were matches. But now we've got mic spots and skits, right? So any of our segment types now, you can utilize this continuum or this legends feature to essentially, bypass all the restrictions that active years might put on you when you're booking. And the new one, going back to the second feds for a moment here, is the crossover match. And the crossover match naturally allows you to take a wrestler or wrestlers from Fed 1 and have them go against wrestlers from Fed 2, your standard crossover situation. So that's a really fun one, and we've been wanting to do that ever since we debuted Second Fed. So I'm happy that it's finally in the game, and I hope people enjoy it.
Whenever Second Fed dropped, I think that was one of the biggest requests was, hey, now that we have two Feds, let's have them
be able to cross over. Absolutely.
Between these two
100%.
Feds, right? So I think it's gonna, for that one, it's gonna really expand what you can do with your Second Fed and just the storylines that come out of that. Being able to split and have these crossovers and really build some more lore. Between these new promotions you got running. So really exciting stuff. And I wanted to mention no new wrestlers this month, right? So we focused on features. And new matches. When can we expect some
wrestlers? February. We're gonna get back into that in February, and as usual, we'll do our teasers and our promos and stuff like that. I know people always have fun with our emoji guessing game. That's always a blast.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, before we move off of this subject about Second Feds, I do want to hit up some of that frequently asked question type stuff, just in case people either haven't purchased the Second Fed yet, maybe gave it a shot and didn't love it so much, or are considering doing it. Here's some things that you might already know, or some things you might not know. You can start a Second Fed at any time, right? You don't have to start it at New Game Plus. You could be in the middle of whatever month or year your current play session is in. It's right on that front screen. Your history in the Second Fed will start right there from wherever you are. Just so you know, you can give control back of the Second Fed to the CPU on the settings screen. You can give it back to the CPU at any time. This sends all of your wrestlers to the initial Fed, and your Second Fed history goes away, right? If you want to recontrol that Second Fed, you can. And there is no additional unlock cost. Once you've unlocked it once, you're good to go. You can pass it back between yourself or the CPU at any given time. You're not going to be charged again. Another important thing to mention is the roster management ability between the two Feds. Once you've unlocked that Second Fed, hit the backstage button, okay? And then on the backstage screen, you're going to see a rosters button. From that rosters screen, you're going to see every character, when I say character for 80s, I mean wrestler or manager that you own. And it's going to be a little headshot of the wrestler, and underneath that will be a little Fed banner. If you click on any of those Fed banners, it's as simple as that. You can swap any of those wrestlers or managers between the two Feds you own freely. You could do this as many times as you want. You could do it any time you want, right? So that real full control of your two Fed rosters is something that's really important that players understand that they have the ability to do. I just think it's a really fun feature to control your landscape.
One thing that we want to do for this podcast every time we do it is shout out a player. We have such a wide range of all these types of players and just how passionate they are to these games. Have you picked out one for this?
Right.
Week?
So that when we talked about doing this thing, that was one of the things that I knew that just had to happen every episode, is just as a standard piece of every recording. We want to highlight some players when we get the opportunity. So for this first episode, one player who stands out, and he's very hard to miss because when we post something on Facebook, he is always very encouraging. He's full of his own creative content, and that's Enrico Olivieri. I hope I'm saying that right, Enrico, but we appreciate you, man. We see you. I'm shouting him out specifically because he is just posting engaging content nonstop. He's always coming up with character concepts. Yeah. He's always doing these like what if type situations, and it's not just text, right? He's always like creating images and asking for people to respond, and yeah, he's just a really positive, creative, supporting player, and we appreciate him, and we just wanted to shout him out. And if you do frequent Facebook and you are a part of the fan page, I'm sure you already have seen Enrico's stuff, but if you haven't, go check him out. He's always doing a good job for us, and we appreciate him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I always look forward to those posts.
Right
Absolutely.
Right on.
Keep them up, Enrico. Give me some more of them. Actually, I love seeing those the Photoshop jobs that get
Heck
done.
yeah.
They're great.
Definitely.
Great stuff.
I guess that we're going to wrap this one up, man. I think we touched on the things we wanted to touch on. Mm-hmm. I'm sure as we go on, as we do more episodes of this, we'll get more in the groove. We'll figure out what works, what doesn't. This was our first shot, and we hope it's worth listening to, and we hope you guys stick around and want some more.
Thanks so much for listening, and also let us know if there's any suggestions for the pod. Like we said at the beginning, this is a test run. We're winging it a little bit, but yeah, we're here, and we're excited. If you're down for more Mike Spot podcast episodes,
stay tuned.
Are you a fan of Checkmate creative content? The most impactful way to show your support is by leaving our games 5-star ratings on Google Play and the App Store. That ensures we keep making more of the content you love and games you want to play. Following both 80s Mania Wrestling and Modern Mania Wrestling on Instagram, X, and Facebook is the best way to stay up to date with our latest news and character reveals. We invite you to share any and all feedback about your playing experience directly with us at support@80smaniawrestling.com or support@modernmaniawrestling.com.
This has been a Checkmate Creative Production.